For nearly 2 decades, one man had a leg so powerful, so deadly, that it struck fear into defenses across the NFL. Sebastian Janikowski was not just a kicker, he was a weapon. A first-round pick by the Raiders, a record-breaking machine, and a legend with a booming 63-yard field goal to his name. Fans adored him. Opponents feared him. But then, he vanished. No farewell tour, no Hall of Fame talk, just a quiet exit that left fans wondering, what really happened? How did one of the most unique players in NFL history fade into obscurity? Was it the off-field controversies, the reckless lifestyle, or something even worse? Today we uncover the sad fall of Sebastian Janikowski, his rise, his downfall, and his forgotten legacy. Stay with us because this story is wilder than you think. The rise of a kicking prodigy from Poland to America, a new beginning. Sebastian Janikowski's story did not start on the bright football fields of America. It began in Wałbrzych, Poland, a small city far removed from the glitz and glamour of the NFL. His father, a professional soccer player, immigrated to the United States in search of a better life, leaving young Sebastian behind. For years, he lived in Poland, honing his skills in soccer, unaware that his greatest gift was yet to be discovered. At 15, he reunited with his father in Florida, stepping into an entirely new world. He barely spoke English. He had no friends. But one thing was clear. He had an unbelievable leg. What started as casual soccer training quickly turned into something special. Coaches at Seabreeze High School noticed his ridiculous kicking power, and it did not take long before he was booming footballs through the uprights like no one had ever seen. A high school sensation, the unstoppable leg. Janikowski was not just another high school kicker, he was a phenomenon. His kicks were soaring far beyond the norm, regularly splitting the uprights from 60 yards out. Coaches, scouts, and even college recruiters could hardly believe their eyes. He was not a typical slim-built kicker. He was big, strong, and fearless, a rare combination that made him even more dangerous. Word spread fast. Soon he was breaking records, winning championships, and drawing the attention of major college programs. It was clear this was no ordinary kicker. This was a game changer. Florida State dominance, the making of a first-round pick. When Janikowski arrived at Florida State University, he was already a legend in the making. Under legendary coach Bobby Bowden, he became the most dominant kicker in college football. His accuracy was elite, his power unmatched, and his confidence through the roof. He thrived under pressure, drilling clutch kicks with ease and making them look effortless. In 1999, he helped lead Florida State to a national championship, cementing his status as the best kicker in the country. But with greatness came controversy. Off-field troubles began to surface, foreshadowing the issues that would follow him for years. The Raiders risk a first-round gamble. Despite the warning signs, the Oakland Raiders saw something special. Kickers were almost never drafted in the first round, but Al Davis was not like other owners. He believed Janikowski was a generational talent, a weapon capable of changing the game. In the 2000 NFL Draft, the Raiders shocked the world by selecting Janikowski's 17th overall, making him the highest drafted kicker in modern history. Some called it brilliant, others insane. The pressure was on. Would Janikowski live up to the hype, or would his reckless lifestyle eventually catch up to him? His rise was only the beginning. What came next would change everything. The Raiders' gamble, a first-round kicker, a shocking draft decision. Was it a mistake? The 2000 NFL Draft was loaded with talented playmakers, franchise quarterbacks, dominant linemen, and explosive wide receivers. Yet when the Oakland Raiders were on the clock with the 17th overall pick, they stunned the football world by selecting a kicker. Kickers almost never went in the first round. It was unheard of. Most teams viewed them as expendable, easily replaceable with later round picks or even undrafted players. But Al Davis, the legendary owner of the Raiders, thought differently. He saw Sebastian Janikowski not just as a kicker, but as a game changer, a player who could score points from anywhere on the field. Some analysts praised the move, calling Janikowski the strongest leg kicker in football history. Others laughed, labeling it one of the biggest risks in draft history. The pressure was on. Janikowski had to prove that he was worth a first-round pick. Early struggles, the weight of expectations. With a massive contract and sky-high expectations, Janikowski entered the NFL under a microscope. The Raiders expected him to be a weapon, but the transition was not as smooth as he had hoped. As a rookie, he struggled with consistency. While he could nail 60-yard kicks in practice, the speed and intensity of the NFL were a different beast. He missed crucial field goals, and critics began to question if the Raiders had made a mistake. But Janikowski was not one to crumble under pressure. He worked relentlessly, refining his technique technique and improving his accuracy. Slowly but surely, he started to live up to the hype, becoming a fan favorite, the Polish Cannon. By his second season, Janikowski had found his rhythm. His kicks were not just long, they were devastatingly accurate. He could hit from anywhere on the field, and soon Raiders fans began to embrace him. They gave him a nickname, the Polish Cannon, a fitting tribute to his insane kicking power. He had swagger, confidence, and an attitude that fit perfectly with the Raiders' identity. He was not just a kicker, he was a showman, breaking records, a kicking legend in the making. Over the years, Janikowski started shattering records. He nailed a 63-yard field goal, tying the NFL record at the time. He became the Raiders' all-time leading scorer, a testament to his longevity and impact. Defenses feared him. Coaches game planned around his ability. If the Raiders were anywhere near midfield, they had a chance to score. That was the power of Janikowski. But while his career was thriving on the field, his personal life was becoming more chaotic. The pressures of fame, money, and a reckless lifestyle were beginning to take a toll, and soon the cracks would start to show. The off-field troubles begin, a life of fame, fortune, and chaos. Sebastian Janikowski was not just a kicking phenomenon. He was a larger-than-life personality. He had a swagger that set him apart, a reckless confidence that made him seem unstoppable on the field. But off the field, that was a different story. With money, fame, and the nightlife of Oakland and Las Vegas at his fingertips, Janikowski quickly earned a reputation as a wild partier. He loved the spotlight, the clubs, the endless drinks, and the late nights. But with that lifestyle came trouble, and trouble seemed to follow him wherever he went. Run-ins with the law, a pattern of recklessness. Janikowski's legal issues started early in his career. In 2000, shortly after being drafted, he was arrested for bribery, accused of attempting to pay off a police officer following an altercation. The case was eventually dropped, but it was just the beginning of his off-field chaos. Over the years, he had multiple arrests for bar fights, DUIs, and public intoxication. At times, it seemed like his personal life was spiraling out of control, yet he always managed to escape serious consequences. Raiders fans joked that Seabass can kick his way out of anything, but in reality, his reputation was taking a hit. Critics started questioning whether his partying lifestyle was interfering with his career. Did the Raiders enable his behavior? One of the biggest questions surrounding Janikowski's career was, did the Raiders do enough to control him? The Raiders, known for embracing rebels and outlaws, had a history of overlooking off-field issues if a player performed well. In Janikowski, he was still nailing record-breaking field goals. While some teams may have taken a hard stance on his behavior, the Raiders seemed to take a hands-off approach. As long as he was winning games, his off-field antics were brushed aside. But behind the scenes, those close to him knew that his reckless lifestyle was unsustainable, and eventually it would start to affect his career in ways no one expected. From star to liability, the beginning of the end, Father Time catches up. For years, Sebastian Janikowski was one of the most reliable weapons in the NFL. His booming leg, fearless attitude, and ability to nail clutch kicks from impossible distances made him a Raiders legend. But no player can outrun Father Time. And for Janikowski, the decline came gradually, then all at once. As he moved deeper into his 30s, the signs of aging became impossible to ignore. His once effortless, long-range kicks lost some of their power. His consistency, the thing that made him invaluable, began to waver. The same Raiders fans who once cheered his incredible range started to hold their breath every time he lined up for a kick. Injuries and declining performance. A kicker's greatest weapon is their leg, and Janikowski had relied on his powerful left foot for nearly 2 decades. But as he aged, injuries became more frequent. A nagging back injury in 2017 sidelined him for the entire season, the first real sign that his time with the Raiders was coming to an end. His replacement, Giorgio Tavecchio, stepped in and performed well enough to make the coaching staff reconsider their options. Even when he returned, Janikowski was no longer the unstoppable force he once was. His accuracy dipped, and missed kicks started to pile up. The same franchise that had drafted him in the first round was now questioning whether he was still worth keeping. The unavoidable goodbye. By the 2018 offseason, the writing was on the wall. The Raiders were heading in a new direction, and at 39 years old, Janikowski was no longer part of the plan. After 18 seasons, the team cut ties with their longtime kicker, ending an era that had defined Oakland's special teams for nearly 2 decades. It was not just a career move, it was a gut-wrenching farewell. For the first time in his professional life, Janikowski was without a home in the NFL. And for a player who had built his entire identity around football, the uncertainty of what came next was terrifying. The Raiders move on, Janikowski's fall from relevance, the painful goodbye to the silver and black. After 18 unforgettable seasons, Sebastian Janikowski's time with the Raiders Raiders came to a heartbreaking end. He had become synonymous with the franchise, one of the longest tenured players in team history. But in the cutthroat world of the NFL, longevity means nothing when performance starts to decline. In 2018, the Raiders made the difficult decision to move on. The team had a new coaching staff, a different vision for the future, and a desire to rebuild. Janikowski, at 39 years old, no longer fit into those plans. His release was not just another roster move, it was the end of an era. Despite all his years of service, the farewell was shockingly quiet. There was no grand ceremony, no heartfelt tribute, no emotional press conference, just a simple transaction, one that left both Janikowski and Raiders fans with a deep sense of emptiness. A last chance in Seattle. But was it redemption? Determined to prove he still had something left in the tank, Janikowski signed a one-year deal with the Seattle Seahawks. It was a fresh start, a chance to show the NFL that he was not finished yet. For moments, it seemed like he could recapture the magic. He made a few clutch kicks, including a game winner against the Carolina Panthers. But it was clear, this was not the same Seabass fans had known for years. His power was fading, and his accuracy was unpredictable. Then in a playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys, the worst happened. Right before halftime, Janikowski attempted a 57-yard field goal and immediately collapsed to the ground, clutching his hamstring. He was done for the game, and soon he would be done with the NFL for good. An unceremonious exit from the NFL. After the 2018 season, Janikowski quietly retired from football. There was no emotional farewell, no press tour, no send-off from the league. The man who had once been the most feared leg in the NFL disappeared from the sport without a trace. For someone who had spent nearly 2 decades in the league, the lack of recognition was shocking. No farewell speech, no moment of closure, just silence. And just like that, Sebastian Janikowski was gone. From the Raiders, from the NFL, and from the public eye. Life after football, where did he go? Walking away from the game. When Sebastian Janikowski played his final NFL game in 2019, fans expected at least some kind of presence in the football world. Would he transition into coaching, become a mentor for young kickers, maybe even return to the Raiders in some capacity? But instead, Janikowski vanished. Unlike many retired players who stay connected to the sport through media, coaching, or business ventures, Janikowski seemed to want nothing to do with football. After nearly 2 decades in the NFL, he stepped away completely, leaving fans wondering, where did he go? Was he financially secure, or did he struggle? One of the biggest fears for retired athletes is financial ruin. Many former NFL stars, despite earning millions, struggled to adjust to life without a steady paycheck. But for Janikowski, money did not appear to be a major issue. During his long career, he earned over $53 million, an unheard of amount for a kicker. Unlike some athletes who made reckless investments or fell into bankruptcy, Janikowski seemed to have managed his wealth well. Reports suggest he lived a quiet, comfortable life in Florida, where he had moved with his wife and children. While he had a reputation for a wild lifestyle in his younger years, retirement seemed to bring him peace and stability, at least on the surface. No comeback, no coaching, just silence. Despite his legendary kicking career, Janikowski never pursued coaching or any kind of involvement with the NFL after retirement. He was never seen training young kickers, never joined a broadcast team, and never made a push for a comeback. For a player who had once been one of the most talked about kickers in NFL history, his complete disappearance from the public eye was surprising. There were no interviews, no podcasts, no attempts to stay in the spotlight. Fans who had cheered for him for years were left with nothing but memories, as Janikowski seemingly closed the door on football forever. The legacy of Sebastian Janikowski, a story of triumph and turmoil, a career unlike any other. Sebastian Janikowski's journey was one of raw talent, controversy, and unfulfilled potential. From a young Polish immigrant with a golden leg to the Raiders' first-round gamble, he carved out an NFL career that few kickers could ever dream of. For nearly 2 decades, he was a fan favorite, a game changer who could turn the tide with a single kick. His record-breaking power, legendary kicks, and fierce confidence made him one of the most recognizable special teams players in history. But like so many great athletes, his story did not have a fairy tale ending. Was he misunderstood or his own worst enemy? Janikowski was not just known for his powerful leg, his off-field reputation often took center stage. His partying, legal troubles, and wild behavior sometimes overshadowed his talent. Fans were left wondering, did his personal life prevent him from becoming even greater? Did the Raiders enable his recklessness for too long? Or was he simply a misunderstood talent, a player who played by his own rules but still delivered when it mattered most? When the Raiders moved on from him, it was not with a grand farewell, but with a quiet goodbye. His final season in Seattle was uneventful, and when he walked away from football, he did it without looking back. Unlike many legends, he did not stay in the game, did not coach, and did not embrace the spotlight. Does he deserve more respect? Now the question remains, how should we remember Sebastian Janikowski? Was he simply a kicker who lasted longer than most, or should he be recognized as one of the greatest of all time? His powerful leg, his clutch moments, and his impact on the game cannot be denied. But does his wild reputation overshadow his accomplishments? Your turn. Share your thoughts. Now it is your turn to weigh in. Was Sebastian Janikowski a Raiders legend who deserves more respect, or did his own decisions cost him a greater legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share your memories, opinions, and let us know how you feel about his roller coaster career. And if you love deep dives into Raiders history, make sure to check out our other videos. There are countless untold stories, shocking twists, and unforgettable moments waiting for you. Stay tuned, and we will see you in the next one.